All right, what's going on, everyone? This is what peace in Ukraine could look like according to Ukrainian President Zelensky. He laid out a 10-part peace outline, I think I'll call it, at the G20 summit on November 14th, 2022. I'll put a link in the description below to the text of the full speech if you want to read that. But interested in your thoughts. Do you think it's realistic? Is it reasonable? Will it actually lead anywhere? His first point, radiation and nuclear safety. He says Russia must immediately withdraw all of its militants from the territory of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. The station must be immediately transferred to the control of the IAEA and the Ukrainian personnel. The normal connection of the station to the power grid must be restored immediately so that nothing threatens the stability of the reactors. The second point is food security. He said, I believe our export grain initiative deserves an indefinite extension no matter when the war ends, adding that Ukraine can export 45 million tons of food this year, and they can let a significant part of it be directed to those who suffer the most. Third has to do with energy security. He says about 40% of their energy infrastructure was destroyed by the strikes of Russian missiles and Iranian drones used by the occupiers. Every week, Russia blows up our power plants, transformers, and electricity supply lines. We must also take a fundamental step so that energy resources are no longer used as weapons. Fourth, the release of all prisoners and deportees. Thousands of our people, military and civilians, are in Russian captivity. In addition, we know by name 11,000 children who are forcibly deported to Russia. Add political prisoners, Ukrainian citizens who are held in Russia and the temporarily occupied territory, in particular in Crimea. He adds, therefore, we must unite for the sake of the only realistic model of release of prisoners, all for all. Fifth, implementation of the UN Charter and restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity and the world order. Zelensky says we must restore the validity of international law and without any compromises with the aggressor, because the UN Charter cannot be applied partially, selectively, or at will. He continues, Russia must reaffirm the territorial integrity of Ukraine within the framework of the relevant resolutions of the UN General Assembly and the applicable international legally binding documents. It is not up to negotiation. So this is one of the areas they're drawing a hard line. Sixth, withdrawal of Russian troops and cessation of hostilities. Russia must withdraw all of its troops and armed formations from the territory of Ukraine. Ukraine's control over all sections of our state border with Russia must be restored. Pretty clear cut, and I think that's been called out by Ukraine for quite a while now. Shouldn't be a surprise. Seventh, justice. Everywhere where we liberate our land, we see one thing. Russia leaves behind torture chambers and mass burials of murdered people. That is why the world should endorse establishment of the special tribunal regarding the crime of Russia's aggression against Ukraine and the creation of an international mechanism to compensate for the damages caused by this war. That's new, and it sounds like something they're pushing forward in the UN. I think just yesterday they pushed forward a resolution calling on Russia to pay for damages. A special tribunal regarding the crime of aggression would be new. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Eighth, immediate protection of the environment. Millions of hectares of forest were burned by shelling. Almost 200,000 hectares of our land are contaminated with unexploded mines and shells. We must find common responses to all environmental threats created by the war. Without this, there will be no return to a normal, stable life, and the reverberations of the war will remain for a long time. In the explosions of mines that will take the lives of children and adults, in the pollution of water, soil, and atmosphere. Ninth, the prevention of escalation. He actually took this kind of in a future direction. I thought it was going to be around escalation today. Either way, Zelensky says Ukraine is not a member of any of the alliances, and Russia was able to start this war precisely because Ukraine remained in the gray zone between the Euro-Atlantic world and Russian imperialism. We need effective security assurances. That is why we prepared a draft agreement, the Kyiv Security Compact, and have already presented it to our partners. And the 10th and final point, confirmation of the end of the war. When all the anti-war measures are implemented, when security and justice begin to be restored, a document confirming the end of the war should be signed by the parties. So that's it. Zelensky's 10-point, again, I'll say outline for a peace plan in Ukraine. Interested in your thoughts. Is it, again, realistic? Is it reasonable? Is it actually going to go anywhere? Personally, I think anytime points like this are on the table and you can start a discourse, it's for the better. But let me know what you think. That'll do it for now.